Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to take those big ideas you're exploring and, well, give you the fast track to really getting them.
And today, yeah, we're tackling something pretty monumental.
We are. We're diving deep into the philosophy, the practice, really, behind a modern spiritual classic. A book that, honestly, messes with your whole idea of suffering and who you think you are.
The Power of Now, it's a powerful piece of work, but accessible,
Right. It's not just theory. It aims for real transformation.
Exactly. So we're looking at the core framework of, well, spiritual awakening, I guess you'd call it. How to live without constantly being dragged down by the past or freaked out about the future.
Yeah, our mission today is to get beyond just the summary points. We need to understand the actual mechanics of it. How does this liberation thing work?
Which means really unpacking how you stop identifying with that voice. You know the one, that chatterbox inside your head we call me.
Uh-huh. And crucially, how do you dissolve all that built-up emotional gunk? The old pain, the suffering that just sticks around.
That residue, yeah, it accumulates. And you can't really get the framework without starting where the author did, his origin story.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Because this wasn't something he just thought up.
Not at all. It wasn't some conclusion after years of quiet meditation. It was sudden, intense, almost violent in a way. A total shift in consciousness.
Okay, let's really get into this aha moment.
Yeah.
Because it starts somewhere relatable, right? Intense mental pain.
Oh, absolutely. He talks about being almost crippled by depression, anxiety, just this deep, heavy despair. The mental noise was nonstop.
And it all kind of crystallized into this one thought, repeating over and over.
I cannot live with myself any longer, just hammering away at him.
Wow. But then something clicked, didn't it? Something shifted in how he heard that thought.
Yeah, that's the really fascinating part, the seed of the whole teaching. Suddenly, spontaneously, he became aware of the duality in that phrase.
Duality? How so?
He was lost in the thought, but then this quiet awareness just popped up and noticed the contradiction. Like, hang on, if I cannot live with myself,
Then who is the I and who is the self?
exactly. There must be two entities here, the observer, the I, and the observed, the self that the I finds unbearable.
And that tiny gap, that distinction, it broke the spell.
Completely. The relentless stream of thought just stopped. Silence. For the first time, probably in his adult life, the mind went quiet.
Pure consciousness, but without the thought overlay? Must have been weird.
Terrifying at first. He describes it as being sucked into this intense, frightening void, physically shaking even.
Like the ego fighting back.
That's how he frames it, yeah. The mental construct resisting its own, well, annihilation. But then he heard these words inside, resist nothing.
So he surrendered.
He let go, gave into the collapse, and the fear just vanished, gone.
And what replaced it? What was on the other side of that void?
Pure awakening, just profound presence. He talks about waking up later to a bird singing, but hearing it with such clarity, such intensity, he said it sounded like a diamond.
Like a diamond. Wow.
Yeah. And everything he looked at, curtains, a bottle, a pencil, seemed fresh, new, intensely alive, glowing almost with this soft light he just knew was love itself. No thinking involved, just knowing.
So he tapped into being, pure being, before the mind labels everything.
That's it. And he spent the next 2 years basically just existing on park benches, mostly homeless, just absorbed in this incredible, constant joy and peace, a deep undercurrent of peace that he says never left him.
So naturally, people started noticing this guy radiating peace on a park bench.
Yeah.
I must have asked him.
What have you got? How do I get that?
And his answer wasn't some complex technique.
No, incredibly simple, revolutionary, really. He'd just tell them, totally certain, you already have it.
You already have it.
You just can't feel it because your mind is making too much noise. That was it. Not a philosophy, just an observation. The noise, the thinking, that's the only barrier.
And that core diagnosis, the noisy mind, as the obstacle, became the whole basis for the teaching.
Precisely. That's the foundation.
Which leads us straight into the first big section, and it's a confronting one. You are not your mind. If the mind's the barrier, we have to start seeing it as separate from our actual self.
Yeah, that's the fundamental premise. Your mind, especially those thoughts that just run on their own, the involuntary stuff, that's the obstacle.
It sounds simple, but it's huge.
It is. And if you step back, it's kind of absurd, isn't it? If you told a doctor you heard a voice or multiple voices judging you, commenting, analyzing 24/7.
They diagnose you pretty quickly.
Right.
Seriously.
Right, but nearly everyone lives with this constant internal monologue. The narrator, the argument, the planning, we just call it normal thinking.
It's statistically normal, sure, but the book argues it's not sane,
Yeah.
not really free.
Definitely not free. It frames this compulsive thinking as an addiction. And like any addiction, the key is you feel you don't have a choice. You have to think. The thoughts seem stronger than your will to stop them.
What's driving that compulsion, that addiction? The book points to fear, right?
Yeah.
A really deep fear.
Exactly. And an unconscious fear of, well, ceasing to exist. Annihilation.
Because our identity, who we think we are, is all tied up in our thoughts.
It's entirely derived from the mind's content and activity. Our memories, our beliefs, judgments, future plans, all of it. The ingrained belief is, stop thinking and I disappear.
And that I, that mind-made identity, that's the ego, the false self.
That's the term used, yes. Created by this unconscious identification with the mind.
So the ego isn't some evil little demon sitting on your shoulder. It's more like a mechanism, a structure.
It's a mental image, basically, built up over years of conditioning, personal stuff, cultural stuff. It's the sum of your likes, dislikes, your stories about yourself, your roles.
Right, because it's not real, just a mental construct.
It needs constant feeding, constant mental energy to prove it exists. It's always telling itself and you the story of me.
And if it's purely mental, purely thought-based, then its relationship with time must be messed up.
Totally dysfunctional. The ego needs psychological time to survive, the present moment. It barely exists for the ego. Or, if it does, it's just an annoying hurdle on the way to the future.
So it's obsessed with the past.
Constantly keeping the past alive. Because without your memories, your story, your history of hurts and triumphs, what is the ego? It needs that narrative. It keeps asking, who are you without your past?
And then it uses that past to project into the future, always seeking something else.
Always. That's the voice whispering, one day, when I get the job, find the partner, lose the weight, then I'll be okay. Then I'll be happy, complete. Fulfillment is always just around the corner.
Which means it never actually arrives.
Never. And even when the ego seems to be dealing with the now, it's distorted. It's either looking at the present through the filter of old grudges and interpretation.
Or it's just using the present as a means to an end, a stepping stone to that future goal. The moment itself has no value.
Exactly. It strips the now of its vitality.
You know, this idea is so embedded. The source even points to Descartes. I think, therefore I am. As kind of the ultimate expression of this error.
Yeah, that's a really sharp analysis in the book. It argues Descartes basically summed up the fundamental human mistake, equating thinking with being. Identity is thinking.
By saying I am because I think, he locked that egoic structure right into Western thought.
Pretty much. The function of the mind thinking, often compulsive thinking, became the definition of existence itself.
The implication being if I stop thinking, I stop being.
Right, which is terrifying if your whole identity is wrapped up in thought. And this thinker lives in a world of problems, conflicts, separation, because the ego needs those things to define itself against. It ensures the world feels like a series of obstacles.
Okay, so if that's a problem state, what's the solution state? What's enlightenment, according to this framework? It uses the Buddha's definition.
Which is brilliantly simple, the end of suffering.
Simple but profound.
And powerful because it's negative. It stops the mind from immediately grabbing enlightenment and turning it into another goal, another belief, something to achieve in the future.
It's not about becoming superhuman.
Not at all. It's about wholeness, being at one. It's the end of being enslaved by that nonstop thinking machine. It's recognizing the peace that's already here underneath all the mental noise.
And that state of wholeness, that peace, it gives rise to different kinds of feelings, doesn't it? Like love, joy, peace itself.
Yeah.
How are they different from our usual emotional ups and downs?
That's a crucial distinction. Love, joy, and peace in this context are described as deep states of being, aspects of your connection to that deeper reality. The key thing is, they have no opposite.
No opposite. Unlike, say, pleasure and pain.
Exactly. They arise from beyond the mind. The mind operates in duality, good, bad, light, dark, love, hate, pleasure, pain. So the pleasure you chase, maybe from buying something or a fleeting experience,
Is inherently tied to the pain of not having it or losing it.
right, it's a cycle. And this applies even to what most people call love.
Romantic love.
Often, yeah. When it's two egos basically clinging to each other, trying to fill a sense of lack, that's an addictive need, not the real thing. It comes from the dualistic mind.
So it's bound to flip.
It has the potential to flip into its opposite: resentment, anger, hate, the moment the other person stops meeting those unconscious egoic needs. But true love, the kind that arises from being, from presence, it's uncaused. It just is. It doesn't have an opposite it can turn into.
Wow. Okay, so that sense of lack, that separation the ego creates, it doesn't just cause future anxiety, it generates a kind of toxic waste from the past, too.
That's a good way to put it. If the mind creates the ego illusion, it also acts like a storage unit for unresolved pain. Which brings us to section 2 and this really striking concept, the emotional pain body.
The pain body, right. So every time we experience emotional pain and we're not fully present,
It doesn't just disappear
right.
if you can't access the power of it. Now, the energy of that pain could be childhood stuff, could be adult resentment, guilt, intense frustration. It leaves a residue, an energetic footprint.
And this residue builds up.
It merges with all the old pain that's already there. It accumulates, lodging itself in your mind, yes, but also physically in the body's energy field.
The source describes it almost like a semi-autonomous entity, like an invisible entity in its own right. That sounds intense.
It is, because it acts like it has an agenda, its own drive for survival.
And it operates in cycles, dormant and active.
Yeah, mostly it lies dormant, maybe just an undercurrent of unease or general unhappiness. But then it gets triggered and becomes active. For some deeply unhappy people, it can be active almost all the time.
How does it manifest when it's active?
Chronic negativity, self-sabotaging thoughts, attracting or creating drama, accidents, even physical illness, sometimes anything that generates more pain.
And for most people, it gets triggered in specific situations. Relationships seem like a big one.
Huge. Intimate relationships are like fertile ground for the pain body because they poke at old wounds, abandonment, betrayal, feeling unseen. The moment it wakes up, it needs drama. It needs to feed.
But what's its food source?
This is the chilling part. It needs unconscious identification to survive. It rises up, takes you over, you become it, essentially. And then it starts looking for experiences that resonate with its own frequency.
Which is pain.
Exactly. Anger, self-pity, grievance, conflict, emotional destruction, violence, anything painful. The core principle is stark. Pain feeds only on pain. It literally cannot digest joy, peace, or conscious presence. They're like poison to it.
So when someone's taken over by their pain body,
Yeah.
they unconsciously start creating situations to keep the pain going, picking fights, playing the victim.
It's described as an act of unconscious insanity because nobody consciously chooses to be miserable or destructive, but this energy field operates through them, manipulating their thoughts and behavior to perpetuate itself. They become the victim or the perpetrator, compulsively replaying old scripts. It needs the drama alive because your conscious awareness would starve it.
Okay, but if it thrives on unconsciousness, on our fear of facing the pain, the way out must be awareness, shining a light on it. How do we start dissolving the pain body?
It absolutely dreads the light of your consciousness. That's its kryptonite. The key is sustained conscious attention. You have to become the watcher.
The watcher of the pain itself.
Yes. When it gets triggered, when you feel that familiar wave of negativity, anger, despair, whatever, instead of getting lost in the story about why you feel it or acting it out, you turn your attention inward. You feel the raw energy of the emotion directly inside your body. Feel it as pure sensation without judging it or labeling it good or bad.
So you're separating the feeling, the energy, from the mental narrative the ego wants to spin around it.
Precisely. That sustained, non-judgmental presence acts like a sword. It cuts the link between the pain and your thought processes. The pain body can no longer trick you into feeding it with thoughts of blame, resentment, or self-pity.
And without that fuel,
It starts to dissipate. It can't feed on pure awareness. Instead, something amazing happens. The energy that was locked up in the suffering gets transmuted. The source uses this powerful image. The dense energy of the pain becomes fuel for the flame of your consciousness. Your inner light actually burns brighter because you faced the darkness.
that sounds like alchemy. The old idea of turning lead into gold.
That's exactly the connection made, transmuting the base metal of suffering into the spiritual gold of consciousness. It's healing the split within yourself.
But there must be resistance to this. Letting go of pain sounds good, but
Oh, huge resistance. Because many people have unconsciously built a large part of their identity around their suffering. Being the victim, the misunderstood one, the one who struggles, it gives the ego a solid, albeit painful, sense of self.
so there's a fear of losing that identity, even if it's unhappy.
A deep, unconscious fear. To truly let the pain go, you have to be willing to let go of the unhappy me story. That takes courage.
This ties into fear generally, doesn't it? The pain body is like a concentration of past fear and pain. But what about everyday psychological fear? Worry, anxiety. How does that differ from just being careful?
Good question. Practical intelligence is different. Knowing not to touch a hot stove, that's just learning and caution. It's based on clock time experience.
Right. Not fear in the psychological sense.
Psychological fear is completely disconnected from any real immediate danger. It's that background hum of unease, worry about what might happen, anxiety, nervousness, dread. It lives in the future.
And the source claims that all psychological fear, if you trace it down deep enough, it's the ego's fear of what?
Death, annihilation, its own dissolution.
That puts a different spin on things, even small fears.
Fundamentally, yes. The ego is just a bundle of thoughts and conditioning. It knows on some level it's not real, that a moment of true presence could dissolve it. So anything that threatens its structure feels like a threat to survival. The book uses a brilliant example: the compulsive need to be right in an argument.
Oh, yeah. We see that constantly. People will destroy relationships over needing to be right.
It's pure ego defense, rooted in that primal fear. Why do you need to defend your opinion, your belief, so fiercely? Because if your mental position is invalidated, the mind-based structure, the me, built on those thoughts, feels threatened with collapse.
And collapse equals death to the ego.
Exactly. The ego cannot be wrong. Being wrong is existentially terrifying for it. But once you disidentify from your mind, that compulsion vanishes. Your sense of self isn't tied to your opinions anymore. The need to argue, to defend, just drops away.
So if most people are still identified with their minds, we're living on a planet run by low-grade fear and anxiety.
Fluctuating between general unease and occasional outright panic, yeah. And coupled with that fear is the ego's other core feeling: lack, a deep sense of incompleteness.
Because it knows it's not the real you.
It senses its own phantom nature, so it's constantly trying to fill that hole with external things: validation, possessions, power, achievements, relationships, trying to find something to make it feel whole. But the hole is bottomless as long as you're looking outside.
And when this pattern mind identification, living in psychological time, goes collective, when whole societies operate this way, the book calls it the insanity of psychological time.
This is where the framework really zooms out to look at history, at collective violence. The danger comes from rigid systems, political ideologies, extreme nationalism, certain dogmatic religious interpretations, any system built on the belief that the ultimate good, salvation, lies only in the future.
Heaven's tomorrow, utopia is just around the corner.
Right. And because the future goal is paramount, these systems feel justified in using any means necessary in the present. Torture, oppression, enslavement, mass murder, all rationalized for the sake of that future paradise.
Psychological time gets weaponized. The present moment and the people living in it become expendable.
Completely. Their lives are just obstacles or tools to reach the glorious future. The source uses a really stark historical example to illustrate this mechanism.
The estimated deaths under communism.
Yeah, the estimate that up to 50 million people were killed in the name of furthering the cause of communism. Now, it's crucial to understand the point here isn't a political critique of communism itself, but using it as a clear, large-scale example of this psychological dynamic.
The dynamic of prioritizing a future ideal over present lives.
Exactly. We have to report impartially on how the source uses this. When a collective mind becomes fixated on a future utopia, whatever its label, it can rationalize horrific cruelty now. There's no presence, so there's no real compassion. Other people become abstractions, means to an end. That's the core insanity, valuing time over life.
And this pattern isn't just in grand ideologies. It happens individually, too, fueled by the fact that the mind kind of likes problems.
Absolutely. Problems give the ego definition, a role, a purpose. A problem in this context means mentally dwelling on a situation when there's no intention or possibility of taking action right now.
Like endlessly replaying an old argument.
That's creating a grievance problem. Or constantly worrying about maybe losing your job next year. That's a worry problem. In both cases, you're draining your life energy, your sense of being, by carrying this mental burden of things you might do or should have done, instead of focusing on the only thing you can do: act or be right now.
Creating problems creates pain, which feeds the ego and the pain body. The way out is stop creating pain. Simple, but not easy.
It requires that fundamental shift out of psychological time into the now, the only place anything ever actually happens.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem, the mind, the ego, the pain. Now for the practical solution. Accessing presence and the unmanifested. And the absolute cornerstone, the most vital step, seems to be learning to watch the thinker, becoming the watcher or witness.
This is the heart of the practice. You have to see the mind for what it is: a conditioned mechanism, a habit. And the way to break the habit is to observe it.
So the practice is just listen. Listen to that voice in your head.
Listen impartially, without judgment. That's key. If you start judging the voice, oh, that's a negative thought, I shouldn't think that. That judgment is just the same ego sneaking back in. You have to be the neutral observer, pure awareness.
But here's a question that comes up. How do I know the watcher isn't just another thought? If I think, aha, I'm watching my thoughts now, isn't that still thinking?
That's a brilliant and crucial distinction. The realization, here I am listening, or I'm aware of this thought. That awareness itself isn't a thought. It's different.
How so?
It's more like a background sense of presence, an awareness in which thoughts happen. It arises from beyond the mind. Think of it as the space, and thoughts are just clouds passing through. Becoming aware of the space, that's the key.
Yep.
It feels like stillness, alertness, sometimes called the I am presence.
Okay, so when you turn this conscious presence, this awareness, onto a thought, what happens to the thought?
It usually subsides pretty quickly. It loses its grip on you because you're no longer feeding it with your belief, your identification. You see, it's just a thought, not you.
And each time you do this, each time you notice a thought without getting lost in it,
You create a gap, a space in the constant stream of thinking. And every gap strengthens that underlying awareness, your consciousness, your connection to being. The gap might only last a few seconds at first, but each one is a doorway.
and this state isn't sleepy or zoned out.
Quite the opposite. It's a state of heightened alertness. You're fully awake, more perceptive, more present than when you're lost in thought. This conscious presence actually raises the vibrational frequency of your whole energy field, the life in your body.
And this works because time and mind are linked. So focusing on the autonomy's held now short-circuits the thinking machine.
They are inseparable. Mind needs time past and future to spin its stories. Remove psychological time by anchoring in the now, and the compulsive mind has nowhere to go, unless you consciously choose to use it for planning, of course. The present moment is the key to the spiritual dimension.
The great spiritual traditions, especially Zen, they were all pointing to this, weren't they?
Absolutely. Their whole practice was about bringing attention back relentlessly to the now. Think about that quote from Jesus. Take no thought for the morrow. People misunderstand that. It doesn't mean don't plan your day.
It means don't get lost in psychological worry about tomorrow. Use clock time, but ditch psychological time.
Exactly. Master the razor's edge of the now. And the Zen masters, with their koans, those weren't intellectual puzzles.
Like asking what at this moment is lacking.
Precisely. That question isn't looking for a list. If you're truly present, the answer is always nothing. Everything you need for life is here now. Or asking simply, if not now, when? It instantly exposes the ego's game of always waiting for salvation in the future. Suffering needs time. It dissolves in the now.
You can even see this in extreme situations, right?
Yeah.
Emergencies, high-stakes sports.
Yes. Life-threatening moments, a near-miss car accident, falling, intense sports like climbing or racing. There's no time for the ego's nonsense. Survival kicks in
And the mind goes silent.
instantaneously. Thought stops, replaced by intense, focused, present moment awareness. Your personality, your history, your worries gone. Just pure, alert presence dealing with the situation. It proves we can access that state. The body knows how. We just need to learn to do it without needing a crisis.
So to bring this into everyday life without needing a cliff face, the book talks about using the inner body as an anchor.
This is a really practical grounding technique. Your physical body, the thing you see, that's just the outer shell, the dense part. The inner body is the life inside it, the animating presence.
The energy field.
That's the idea. The formless, vibrant energy that makes the physical body alive. Feeling that inner body is like finding a direct bridge between your form and the formless source, the unmanifested.
How do you practice that? Is it like intense concentration on your insides?
No, much gentler. It's about keeping a small portion of your attention, maybe 10–15%, focused inward throughout the day, feeling the subtle aliveness within.
Like a background awareness.
Exactly. Maybe you feel a slight tingling in your hands or feet, or a warmth in your chest, or just a general sense of energy pervading the body, just resting some attention there. It anchors you firmly in the now, stops the mind constantly pulling you into past and future.
And the book makes a pretty bold claim about this, that inhabiting the inner body can actually slow down aging.
It does. And the logic connects back to psychological time. Constantly living in the past, regret, resentment, or future anxiety, worry, creates this heavy burden, this time accumulation that apparently lodges in the body's cells.
And that interferes with their natural regeneration.
That's the theory. This psychological time impairs the cell's ability to renew themselves. But when you abide in the timeless, Now, identifying more with the timeless energy within than the temporary outer form, the body reflects that. It ages more slowly. You radiate something timeless.
Okay, so the inner body is one major portal into that deeper reality, the unmanifested, as the book calls it. But it also says the unmanifested is everywhere, just hidden in plain sight. What are the other portals?
Two really common ones, often overlooked: silence and space. They're almost like two sides of the same coin, the coin of no thing.
Let's start with silence.
Okay, think about sound. Any sound traffic, talking, music, and noise exists for a moment and then dies back into silence. Silence is the background, the source.
So the practice is to listen for the silence.
Pay more attention to the silence around and between the sounds than to the sounds themselves. Listen to the gaps. Feel the stillness underneath the noise. Doing that creates inner stillness. That stillness is your consciousness becoming aware of itself, free from thought forms. It's a direct entry point.
And space is similar, but visual or spatial.
Exactly. It's like the external version of inner stillness. Walk into a room. Normally your attention goes to the objects, furniture, people, walls. Try withdrawing attention from the things and become aware of the space itself. The emptiness.
The no thing that allows the things to be there.
Right. The walls define the room, but the essence of the room is the space. By consciously noticing nothing, the space between objects, the vastness of the sky, you're perceiving the external counterpart of your own inner spaciousness, your own presence. Silence and space are the womb of creation, right here, disguised as background.
And the last portal mentioned is one we all visit nightly, usually without realizing it.
Dreamless sleep. Every night, when you're truly out, no dreams, you merge back into the unmanifested, back to the source.
That's where we recharge.
You draw vital energy, the life force, chi. It's more essential than food, but the problem is we do it unconsciously. The you, the ego self, isn't there. The ultimate goal, perhaps, is to learn to enter that state of pure source, pure freedom from form while remaining fully conscious.
Okay, we've got the problem-defined ego, mind, pain, and we've got the tools presence, the watcher, inner body, silence, space. But how does this work in, real life? Paying bills, relationships, goals. That brings us to section 4, integrating this, starting with balancing the inner and outer purpose of the journey.
Yeah, this is crucial because life obviously involves doing things, achieving things. So our journey has these two dimensions happening at once.
The horizontal and the vertical.
That's the analogy used. Outer purpose is the horizontal dimension. Getting somewhere, finishing a project, building a career. It unfolds in time, requires goals, uses clock time.
Makes sense. And the inner purpose.
That's the vertical dimension. It's not about what you're doing, but how you're doing it. It's the quality of your consciousness in this moment. Are you present? Are you aware? It's about deepening your connection to being in the timeless collectity. Now, regardless of the outer circumstances.
So someone who's enlightened, they still use clocks and calendars.
Oh, absolutely. They use clock time efficiently. They plan meetings, learn from past mistakes. That's intelligent use of time. What they're free from is psychological time.
The compulsive dwelling on past and future.
Right. So let's say you make a mistake in your business. Analyzing what went wrong so you don't repeat it, that's using clock time, learning.
But beating yourself up about it for weeks, feeling guilty, telling yourself you're a failure.
That's psychological time. You've taken the event and woven it into your ego's negative story about me. That's suffering. Non-forgiveness of self or others always means carrying a heavy load of psychological time.
And it applies to goals too. Outer goals are fine, but
You have to honor the step you're taking right now. If you become obsessed only with the final outcome, believing your happiness depends entirely on reaching it, then the present moment, the doing, becomes just a stressful means to an end. You miss the joy, the aliveness in the process itself.
you can improve your life situation, circumstances, money, health, but you can't improve your life itself, your being, because it's already complete.
That's the core insight. The mistake is chasing outer achievements as a substitute for feeling alive, for connecting with being right now.
This leads naturally into the practice that bridges inner state and outer action. Surrender. Which sounds passive, but isn't meant that way here.
Not at all. It's often misunderstood as giving up, resignation, weakness. But in this context, surrender is purely an inner state.
So what is it then?
It's defined as radical, non-judgmental acceptance of the isness of this present moment. Whatever this moment contains, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, you accept it fully internally as if you had chosen it.
As if you chose it. Even if it's something awful.
Internally, yes. It doesn't mean you like it or want it to continue. It just means you drop all inner resistance to the fact that it is happening right now. And this inner acceptance is perfectly compatible with taking action. The example used is being stuck in the mud.
Okay, so you don't just sit there saying, oh, well, I'm stuck.
No. You fully accept the reality. Okay, I am stuck in the mud right now. No mental complaining. No, this shouldn't be happening. No victim story. Just acceptance of the isness.
And then you take action to get out.
Exactly. But the action arises from a place of inner non-resistance, not from anger or frustration. The quality of the energy flowing into the action is completely different.
And this non-resistant action is surrendered action.
Karma yoga.
Yes. The path of action where you give your full attention to the doing itself, the step you're taking right now, whether it's digging, calling for help, whatever, without being attached to or resisting the action and without being fixated only on the fruit or the result.
So the doing becomes infused with being, with presence. It's joyful or at least peaceful instead of stressful. It becomes an alive engagement with the moment rather than a resentful means to a future end. And the consequences are huge. Surrender instantly transmutes potential suffering into consciousness. It improves the quality and effectiveness of your actions. And crucially, it connects you to a higher vibrational energy, spiritual energy, than the frantic, stressful energy of the mind.
Because suffering only happens when there's resistance.
Suffering is inner resistance to what is. Remove the resistance, accept the isness, and suffering dissolves, even if the outer situation remains challenging for a while.
This shift feels most needed, and maybe most difficult, in enlightened relationships. The book suggests most interactions aren't really human beings connecting, but egos negotiating.
Pretty much. Two minds interacting, two sets of conditioning bumping up against each other, two egos trying to get their needs met, rather than two conscious presences meeting in communion.
And when it's ego-driven, conflict is inevitable, especially in romance.
Romance is often highlighted because the stakes feel so high. The search for the one is frequently an egoic project trying to find someone to complete you, to save you, to fill that inner hole of lack we talked about.
It's an addictive search, coming from neediness.
Right. And because it comes from lack, from the dualistic mind, the love it finds is conditional. It feels intense, sure, but it has that built-in potential to flip into its opposite.
Hate, resentment, attack.
The moment the partner fails to meet the ego's unconscious demands. Because no human can ultimately fill another spiritual void, so the deep pain resurfaces and the partner gets blamed. True love, arising from being, isn't needy. It's the overflowing joy of your own completeness, shared. It doesn't turn into hate.
So the radical shift proposed is to see relationships not as a way to get happy, but as a way to become conscious. The relationship itself becomes a spiritual practice, a sadhana.
Yes, sadhana, a dedicated discipline. It means when the madness arises in the relationship, the jealousy, the anger, the neediness, the defensiveness, yours or theirs, you don't just react unconsciously. You actually welcome it, in a way.
Welcome the madness. Why?
Because what was hidden, what was unconscious pain or conditioning, is being brought into the light. Now you have an opportunity to meet it with awareness and transmute it.
So practically, in the middle of a fight, what does that look like?
Instead of reacting or blaming, you hold the knowing of your inner state. You simply acknowledge internally, okay, anger is here right now, or fear is here, or jealousy is arising. No judgment, no story, just witnessing the feeling energy.
You don't act it out, but you don't suppress it either.
Exactly. You create a space of conscious presence around the difficult emotion. That awareness, that stillness is like a loving embrace. It allows the non-peace, the anger, the pain to be held, and eventually dissolve or transform into peace. It's alchemy again.
And what if it's your partner acting unconsciously? Being rude, attacking?
You drop judgment. You become the space of awareness rather than the reaction or the judge. Non-resistance is key here too. Let the negativity pass through you like you're transparent.
Because if you're not identified with the ego,
There's no me there to get hurt, no solid self to defend. You become invulnerable to the psychic attack because you see it's coming from their pain, their unconsciousness, not their true self. That state of non-reactive, compassionate presence is forgiveness in action.
this all points towards a bigger picture, doesn't it? This individual awakening having a collective purpose. The book talks about the divine game, Leela, and transformation.
Right. Leela, the idea that consciousness, the unmanifested, playfully loses itself in form in the world, in us, almost forgets itself. Until the friction, the suffering inherent in that identification becomes so intense it forces consciousness to wake up within the form.
Like the parable of the lost son returning home.
Exactly. He doesn't just return to his original state, he returns with the wisdom and depth gained through the experience of separation and suffering. Consciousness awakens through its apparent limitation.
But the current state, the collective mind identification, is incredibly dangerous.
The book calls the collective egoic mind the most dangerously insane and destructive force on the planet. Our history, the endless wars, the violence, the exploitation, the destruction of nature, it's all a reflection of the inner state of consciousness dominated by fear, lack, and psychological time.
So the conclusion is stark. We need to wake up collectively.
It's presented not just as desirable, but as necessary for survival. A quantum leap in consciousness is required. The ultimate purpose of the world isn't the world itself, but its transcendence. The world and the suffering within it is the crucible forcing consciousness to disidentify from form.
So the end of the world isn't necessarily literal fire and brimstone.
But the end of the egoic world, the end of identification with form, leading to a new state of being, a new heaven and a new earth born from this inner shift.
Wow. Okay, that was definitely a deep dive. Let's try to crystallize the main takeaways for everyone listening. The core framework.
Absolutely. First, and it's the bedrock. You are not your mind or your ego. That incessant voice, the stories, the judgments, that's a conditioned mechanism, a false self. It's not the real you.
Got it. Second, the present moment is everything. It's the only place you actually live, the only point of access to your true nature, to being. Forget the past. Don't live in the future. Be here now.
Because time and mind are linked. Dissolved psychological time, and the ego loses its power. Third, suffering equals resistance. All suffering is some form of non-acceptance of what is. The pain body feeds on that resistance and unconsciousness.
And the way to dissolve it is conscious attention.
Sustained, non-judgmental awareness, being the watcher. That presence transmutes the dense energy of suffering into the light of consciousness.
And finally, this isn't just mental. Transformation happens through the body and relationships. Using the inner body to anchor yourself in the nale, and practicing surrender inner acceptance in daily life, and especially in challenging interactions.
Right. When you stop resisting what is, internally, you connect to a deeper energy, a peaceful power that's incompatible with the ego's drama and conflict.
So true salvation isn't about achieving something in the future.
No, your mind tells you that. It needs time. But salvation, liberation, is freedom now. Freedom from fear, from suffering, from lack, from compulsive thinking, from psychological time. It's realizing you are already whole, already complete, right here, right now. That's the joy of being.
Okay, so let's leave everyone with a final thought, a challenge based on that core egoic mechanism, waiting.
Ah, yes, waiting. It's such a common and usually unconscious state of mind. You're not fully here because you're mentally projecting into the next moment, waiting for something else to happen.
Waiting for the weekend, waiting for vacation, waiting for the right person, waiting for things to get better.
You're postponing life, believing that real living starts later. But while you're waiting, you're missing the only life there is, this moment.
So the challenge is to stop waiting. Not physically, maybe, but as a state of mind.
Exactly. The next time you find yourself physically waiting in line, in traffic, for someone, notice the mental state. Is there impatience? Boredom? Are you resisting the now after that? Now see it as an opportunity.
An opportunity to practice presence instead of waiting.
Yes. Choose to be fully present in that moment of waiting. Feel your inner body. Observe your surroundings without judgment. If someone keeps you waiting and apologizes,
You could genuinely say,
that's okay. I wasn't waiting. I was just standing here enjoying myself. Enjoying the stillness within, enjoying being enjoying yourself. That state of non-waiting is radical freedom. And who you are in that moment speaks louder than anything. That's the real teaching.